let's go to the Jesus is a Palestinian issue. So Abed, was he a Palestinian?
He was a Palestinian. There's been bloodshed. There's been a genocide happening on the land Jesus was born on. They're dictating what's put in our history books. They're dictating what's put in our textbook. That's very unfortunate, but that's really an example of what we're up against right now.
Now joining us is Abed Ayoud. He's the executive director of American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, and they put up a billboard in Times Square saying that Jesus is a Palestinian. So that is actually an uncontroversial comment because Jesus was born in Bethlehem, which is in the West Bank. So that would make him a Palestinian. But of course, outrage ensued. Abed, welcome to the show.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Great seeing you again.
Yeah, good to see you again, brother. All right, so tell us what the reaction you got was when you guys put this up.
I mean, the initial reaction, surprisingly, was overwhelmingly positive. It wasn't until a lot of a lot of people that opposed our messaging, a lot of people that were against our messaging began organizing and began flooding us with comments and phone calls and emails. But the majority, honestly, the majority of responses that were positive, and this is coming from people with different political leanings and views. So from the left, right, middle, all over the place. But it's as anything to do with Palestine. There are reactions out there that were pretty egregious, that were pretty negative and threatening. We seem to get under their skin, but that's our job. That's what we're supposed to be doing, and we shed light on an issue, and I think we accomplished what we wanted with the billboard.
Yeah, so I like that most people were positive, and that makes sense because most American citizens now sympathize with the Palestinians and are outraged by what Israel's doing and outraged that we're funding it. Of course, that's not the main issue. The main issue is the politicians and the media that pretty much basically work for Israel. So did Netanyahu somehow get aggrieved about this?
Well, Netanyahu got upset about a prior billboard that we had in September calling for Israel to get kicked out of the UEFA campaign. His office, and he directly got involved, demanding that the billboard we put up then be taken down. And it just said Israel's committing genocide. And actually the billboard went up about a half hour after the ruling of genocide was made back in September. But he directly got involved. That's the billboard right there on the screen. He got involved, the White House got involved. Not only that, the Israeli Foreign Ministry purchased advertising space on the same billboard to sandwich us in. So you would have 2 or 3 ads from the Israeli Foreign Ministry, then our ad, and then 2 or 3 ads from them. It's incredible that they would go to those lengths to attack and silence an organization really that has a tenth of the budget that they have, if that. So again, it seems to be working. The public pressure, public opinion is turning against them, and they're trying to occupy every space, even our billboards at this point.
Yeah, so look, when you touch them where it hurts, they of course howl, right? So part of the way that we got rid of apartheid in South Africa was to get them banned from the rugby competitions, right? And so if you get them banned from the World Cup and other soccer competitions and Eurovision, et cetera, that's going to slightly inconvenience Israeli citizens, and maybe it'll make them think twice about murdering 20,000 Palestinian children. Like the deaths of the children are no big deal apparently to the Israelis. But oh my God, what if we couldn't watch our favorite Israeli singer or our favorite Israeli soccer star in an international competition? And of course, that's also why they're so mad about the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement, because the other thing that worked in South Africa was sanctions. And so, but let's go to the Jesus is a Palestinian issue. So Abed, was he a Palestinian?
He was a Palestinian. He was a Palestinian. What the important part about that billboard as well is, let's say even if you disagreed, even if you didn't want to call him a Palestinian, we still have to agree he was born in the Holy Land. He was born there. He was born on the land where there was bloodshed for the past 3 years and for the past 70 plus years. So there's no way that you can disagree of the location of his birth, and they can call it whatever he wants. At the end of the day, there's been bloodshed. There's been a genocide happening on the land Jesus was born on. In the Holy Land, and many Americans have been quiet about it. So hopefully this sparked the conversation, it sparked the debate, and we knew it would. We knew that this was the angle going in, that the media wasn't going to cover Palestinian Christians during Christmas time. That's too boring of a story for them. So we had to come in with something, to something in their face, something that hasn't been done before, and that was the purpose, and that's what we accomplished of it. And yes, we'll stand by it. As you said, he was born in Bethlehem. That's in Palestine. So We're going to use that logic and say Jesus is Palestinian.
And Jesus of Nazareth, and Nazareth also in Palestine.
Right.
And so, in fact, I wonder what the Israelis would have done to Jesus if he was born in Bethlehem these days. Well, I don't have to wonder too much because that's in the West Bank, not in Gaza. But nevertheless, today there was a story out about how the IDF beat Palestinian children in the West Bank. And in fact, they did that, and the settlers at the same time beat the crap out of an older, deaf Palestinian gentleman. In fact, we have video of that, Abed. Let me show you what's happening in the West Bank, the land where Jesus was born, the terrorists that are running it now. Watch.
After being beaten a first time, he lies hunched on the ground, praying the attackers will leave. Instead, more blows, kicked in the face by one and then struck down by two others. He is now hospitalized with a fractured arm and broken jaw. The Israeli military and police say they detained 3 suspects in connection with the attack.
Yeah, those suspects will face no justice at all. They'll be released. The courts in the occupied territories, when the Israelis do crimes, have a 1% conviction rate. 1%. 99% of the time, they're like, oh, you beat an Arab halfway to death? Good job. Congratulations, right? And of course, the IDF, when they are charged, or the settlers are charged, of course, always get off. But if it goes the other way, the Arabs almost always found guilty. So there's the land of Jesus, Abed. So what do we do about this? I mean, the American government under Biden and Trump work for Israel. Most of the American media work for Israel. So how do we get to a place where the Prince of Peace can be born in that land again?
Look, I think the American politicians are working for Israel, the media, but who's not working for Israel is the people. I think through this experience with the Billboard, we've realized how much public opinion really is changing. And there's an opportunity there. And I know we've talked about that, and you've been talking about that for a while now, that we're past the 2-party system, we're past the traditional way of politics. And there's new realignments happening. And this is going to be a core issue heading into the midterms and heading into the 2028 presidential election. I don't think the American people have the appetite and want to stomach doing Israel's dirty work anymore. And our pathway to stopping what's happening, stopping the genocide and the occupation, is to stop the occupation of DC and stop the occupation of our US government. And I think we're getting there, and I think we're winning on many levels. But I know at the same time, I say that, and Israel's just expanding and getting more aggressive, but it's a long fight, and we have a plan in place. We just have to continue speaking up and continue committing ourselves to it.
Yeah, so I want to ask one more question, but first I want to let everybody know. Remember, American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, that's ADC, and the website is adc.org, okay? So, Abed, so Jesus was, of course, Jewish, born in Palestine, right? And what Israel says is, oh my God, if we're just such a wonderful moral democracy and we're running the occupied territories like angels, and it's these no good, dirty Palestinians that every once in a while mind being ruled, and then we put our boot back on their neck, and there's nothing they could do about it, and et cetera. But if the Muslims were to rule the Jews, well, they would kill us all. But wait a minute. Weren't Muslims in charge of the whole area for a long, long time? Did they kill all the Jews?
No, I mean, they're missing a big part of history. And I don't think the greatest threat to Christianity right now in the US and in the Holy Land is Zionism, is the Israelis and the state of Israel is the greatest threat to Christianity. And I think people are starting to realize that, and people are starting to open their eyes to that. Muslims and Christians have, lived side by side. It's very cliche, we've been saying that, but whenever you see an issue like this, whenever you see what you just saw in that video, people are starting to dig a little deeper and understand what's really happening. And the American public hasn't been told the truth. The world hasn't been told the truth, but now it's out there, and you can't put toothpaste back in the bottle. This is there. This is out there, and people are seeing it for what it is and seeing that for who they are.
Yeah. And by the way, of course, Muslims ruled that area for well over 1,000 years, and Muslims, Jews, and Christians lived there relatively peacefully.
Well, when you're running the textbooks and you own the textbooks in this country, and you're determining what kids are learning in high school across, from California to New York, you're going to remove that part of history. I mean, that's what we're up against. When we say they're occupying every part of U.S. life here, they're even occupying our high school classrooms. They're dictating what's put in our history books. They're dictating what's put in our textbooks. That's dangerous. So that part of history you're talking about, people aren't going to learn it unless they're getting it from outside sources or they're getting it from a show like yours and others. And that's very unfortunate, but that's really an example of what we're up against right now.
Yeah, and by the way, if you think that, that's loose talk, it isn't. Robert Maxwell was the Mossad agent that stole America's nuclear secrets. And he then later bought the publishing companies that produced textbooks for American schools.
And most schools get their textbooks from two states, California and Texas. It's easier for a state like Michigan to buy the overstocked books in California and cheaper than it is to produce and publish their own. So California and Texas are providing textbooks for most of the country, and go read what's in those textbooks. You will see nothing about that 1,000+ year part of history you just mentioned. That's because of who's occupying our textbooks, our classrooms, and our everyday life here in the US.
Yeah, I'm gonna say one last thing here at the end. So Abed's the head of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. And Arabs are not all Muslim. There are a lot of Christian Arabs, etc. But Turks are not Arabs. We're basically a different race, background, etc. But 99% of Turks are also Muslim. Now, back in the day, there was a lot of Christians and Jews, etc., that lived in the areas that the Turks ruled, the Ottoman Empire. And we were occupiers, so you can be honest about yourself and it doesn't harm anything, right? And you don't have to be biased. And we occupied the Arabs and the Jews. And so were the Turks super fair? No, they charged extra taxes for other people. They ruled the place, etc. But did they go around just, there's the Muslim leaders, and at the time they controlled the caliphate, the Islamic caliphate. So did they kill all the Jews? Not only did they not kill all the Jews, they went and rescued 400,000 Jews from the Spanish Inquisition and brought them to the Ottoman Empire, where they lived safely for 500 years. So when you hear the propaganda that Muslims are savages who would just kill all the Jews immediately, that is historically 100% untrue. They're lying to you on purpose to justify what Israel is doing to the Muslims today. So Abed, thank you for fighting back and doing it in a clever, interesting way that has caught a lot of people's attentions. We appreciate you and your organization, brother.
Thank you.